Hello, class. So, today we are going to talk about Introduction to Management Perspectives. So, my first question that comes up to you is what is management? Now, when we say what is management, we are talking actually about the process of designing and maintaining an environment, creating an environment and maintaining it where individuals working together in groups are effectively they are working together to achieve some specifically predetermined goals. Okay, so who is the best manager? Has manager is someone who will be able to fulfill these 10 different roles that we have. Interpersonal, someone who has interpersonal roles. When we say it's a manager's relationship with their fellow colleagues, it has to be good. The manager has to be the father figure for the employees, has to be a proper leader, good leader, and has to be the person who is actually who's the communicator between the organization and the external business environment. Has to this is the first, all these three comes under interpersonal. The next comes up is informational, under which we have monitor. Informational is to provide dealing with information. So the manager has to monitor employees, has to provide with the right kind of information, and also has to be the spokesperson for the employees. The third type is decisional, under which you have entrepreneur. The manager has to be a good entrepreneur, makes decision at the right kind of decision with regards to new projects or existing projects. Whenever there is problem, manager has to handle it. He or she should be the one helping in resource allocation and should also be the negotiator in terms of when there is a conflict. So these are the 10 different roles, which is divided under three broad categories: interpersonal, informational, and decisional. Okay. Next that we come across is where we talk about the scope of management. Scope of management as an economic resource, right? So what happens here, management is an important factor of production. Without proper management, we can, an organization, if we have our own organization, we cannot survive, it cannot be successful. We can have raw materials, but lack of proper management can be lead to a failure of the organization. Next is as a team. Team-wide, the management is comprised of different levels: top level, middle level, and the low level. So they work together as a team. Okay. Next comes up is process. Process means involvement of interrelated functions, functions which are interrelated, which helps in achieving the objectives of the organization. As a group management, one person cannot, management does not comprise of one person, it's teamwork, it's a group of people. So what happens? Individually, there's less of individual efforts and more of group efforts. Group efforts, which is based on some predetermined goals. Okay, significance and importance of management. What happens? Even if you have all the raw materials, without proper management, it doesn't become productive. Encourages initiatives. Encourages initiatives means doing right things at the right time without being told or informed by the superior. Employees should be encouraged to make their own plans, not just make plans, but also implement it. Satisfaction and success to the organization, that has to be there. Encourage Not just initiative, but innovation of new ideas, new technology, new methods, new products, etc. So, facilitate growth and expansion. How? With the help of proper utilization of the existing resources, reduction of the wastage. If you use your resources properly, it will really lead to wastage reduction, improving the efficiency level, encouraging teamwork and motivating employees, which would lead to less people being absent from work and less people leaving the job, which would also lead to the growth, expansion, and diversification of the organization. Why? When there is stability, people are committed, they are enthusiastic, they are skilled, they are motivated. It's about to happen. Improves the life of workers. How is this done? By sharing the profit with the workers, because it's the workers who are actually the ones who are doing the job. And also to create a sound environment. Providing financial incentives also. Okay, the next that comes up is where we are talking about improving the corporate image. How? By providing the right quality of goods and services and also maintaining the goodwill and improving the corporate image. That's where we are talking about thinking about the society. How would you retain your existing customers? And also, if your customers are happy through word of mouth, there'll be more customers. Sixth is the optimum utilization of resources. How? By making best use of the resources, so which would lead to reduction in wastage, which would result in best organization, result in the best, which can help in coming up with the best result for that organization. Okay, the next that comes up is to motivate your employees. How? By providing them with financial and non-financial incentives. And also, when you motivate them, when you have financial and non-financial incentives, it's not just money doesn't always work. Sometimes appreciation of some good words that matters. So that makes the employees will be willing to work, and they would lead to the efficiency of the employees. Look into what they need, what skills need. Accordingly, training is given, which would result in productivity and profitability of the organization. Next comes up is to improve relations. How? Relations between the individuals, groups, departments, and the various levels of management, which would lead to a better teamwork and would lead to success in the organization. Next comes up is reduction of absenteeism and labor turnover. How is it being done? By increasing the cost and cause the increase. So if you have, what happens? Like if you have more number of labor who are leaving the jobs, right? Then what happens? Cost increases. Because what happens that there is lack of stability. Each time you hire someone, they're there and then they leave. So you have a fresh group of people coming, grooming needs there. So people are absent from their jobs. So what happens? Less people are working there. So cost increases, problems come up. Management has to come up with techniques to reduce these problems. Encouraging of teamwork. Employees needs to know how to work as a team. That should be there. That training should be there. So developing the team spirit in the organization, which would lead to bring about unity. Next, we talk about the levels of management. Now, there are 3 levels of management. Let's talk of, and if you see, this is a pyramid. With the lower level, the base being broader, there's more number of people there, and as we go up higher on the management level, thus it becomes steeper and less people there because we need less people who has to make the decision. At the top level, we have the CEOs, CFOs, the CTOs, the VP, Vice President Marketing. So they determine the objectives, policies, plans of the organization, mobilize the available resources, involves in thinking, planning, and decision making, spending more time on planning and organization, They are more concerned with long-term plans. Long-term plan is 5 to 20 years. They have the power of authority and responsibility. They are directly responsible to the shareholders, government, and general public. The success or failure depends on their efficiency and decision making. The skills that they require is more of conceptual and less of technical. Conceptual because they're the ones who are making the decisions. Okay, next comes up is the middle level. Middle level, here we have the regional managers. They give recommendation to the top level in management, execute the policies and the plans which is decided by the top level, coordinates the activities of all the departments, spending time on coordination and communicating with the top, it's a coordinating between the top level and the lower level, communicating to the lower level as well as top level also. So they are more concerned with short term plans. Short term plans is when we talk of 1 to 5 years. And at the last, we have the low level management where we have the team leaders, assistant managers, foremen, shift manager. Their job is to develop morals in workers. They pass on the instructions of the middle management, and they are up there to ensure that the work is done through the workers. They are the first line of management. Workers report to them. They allot various jobs to workers, evaluate their performance, and report that to the middle level management. They are directly responsible to the CEO and the board of directors. And because here they're dealing with the workers, so they need to have managerial skills, they need to have technical skills. Otherwise, how would they supervise the workers? And less conceptual skills. Why? Because they are not the ones who are making the decisions. Okay. Question that comes up is management an art or a science? It's quite debatable. So let's actually take up the first thing where we say management as a science, right? So the first thing, the first principle that is the, it's the first thing characteristic is where we are talking about universally accepted principles. So what happens here? Management contains some fundamental principles which can be applied throughout universally, irrespective of the type of organization. For example, where we talk of unity of command, one man, one boss. Next is experimentation and observation. So, management principles are also are based on scientific inquiry and observation, and not only on the opinion of some management experts. Cause and effect relationship. What happens? Say, for instance, let's take up an example, right? Uh, if there is a lack of balance between authority and responsibility, that would lead to ineffectiveness. Okay, say for example, if workers are given bonuses, fair wages, they will work hard, but if they are not treated in the proper manner, it reduces the productivity. Test of validity and predictability. So, what happens? Uh, if we actually see this, for example, that the principles of management are tested for validity. If you take the example of principle of unity of command, what happens? One person, one boss is always better than one person with two bosses. Okay. Next comes up is where we talk from the point of view of is management an art, right? So the first, when we say art, the first thing that comes up is where we talk of practical knowledge. A practical knowledge, what happens? A manager can never be successful just by obtaining degree or diploma in the management. He should also know how to apply various principles in real situations from the point of view of a manager. When we talk of personal skill, what happens? Management as an art is also personalized. Each manager has their own way of managing things based on their knowledge, their experience, their personality. Next comes up is creativity, right? So management is also very creative in nature. Why? Because we are talking of human as well as human non-human resources, combining them in a way to achieve desired results. Sorry, perfection through practice. So managers learn through trial and error initially, and then what happens over the years? They become experts. Goal oriented. So managers use different types of resources and methods to promote growth of an organization. Right. So our next topic is where we talk about management as a profession. So what are the things that we have up here is first is specialized knowledge. You need to, when you take up management as a profession, you need to have specialized knowledge. So specialized knowledge with regards to how to handle things, right? Manager must have devotion, involvement to acquire expertise. They should have that, right? If you do not have the right kind of knowledge, if you do not have the expertise, you cannot handle situations. Formal education and training. Formal education and training is needed, and there are management institutes around the world which is set up to impart education and training. It's needed. Social obligations. Now, what happens? A manager is responsible not only to its organization but also to the society. And so, he or she has to fulfill his or her obligations towards the society. So we are actually talking about corporate social responsibility. If society does not accept us, we cannot survive in that particular society. We cannot sustain. Code of conduct. When we talk of code of conduct, what happens? Like code of conduct, how is it fixed? So the management, there is management association which fixes the code of conduct, and a very famous, if you violate that, there is some penalty. There's a very famous management organization which is the AIMA, which Association of Indian Managers. All India is the association for managers in India, which actually has come forward with these code of conduct, which is expected that every managers in the organization would follow. Representative organization. Okay, so what happens? Like you need to be part of a organization, so someone should be representing you. So, for example, what happens? Why do we? But before I go to the example, what happens for the regulation of a profession? Any profession, management is a profession. There need to be a regulatory body. So, an example is the Chartered Accountants of India, which administers standards of competence for the auditors. That is there. Okay. Our next topic is managerial functions. Now we have different types of functions: planning, organizing, staffing. We have directing and controlling. So let's go into details. Planning. So planning, what happens? Creating of a plan. Creating of a plan. So plan is where we are coming up with setting up of some objectives, and accordingly based on that objectives we come up with some procedures or process that includes like what the goals would be, what the strategies would be, and what are the different types of activities that is needed, or coordination that is needed to achieve that goal, the objectives. Next comes up is organizing. So what happens once the planning is being done? Then you need to arrange and allocate the work, authority, and resources amongst the different members so that you can achieve this goal. Next comes up, after organizing is staffing. Once that is done, then comes up, who would be your human resources? What sort of human resources would you want? Who would actually work to achieve these goals? Now, after staffing comes direction, or as we say, is leading. So, which this is where we need the proper leader who would be directing, influencing, and motivating employees to perform the existing task. And then comes up the lastly is where we talk of controlling. Controlling is the, in other words, monitoring. Monitoring the performance of the employees, taking actions in order to get a desired results if the existing plan does not work. Okay. Challenges for management, right? What are the challenges that we face today? First is challenges in achieving a goal, right? What happens? Whether it's performance, performing a process, supporting some of the organization, developing a new product, or getting new customers, or earning profit, whatever it is, that there has to be a well-defined goals. Now, if you do not have a well-defined goals, it is very difficult to motivate your employees and actually make them work. Second comes up is bringing out the best in your employees. What would you do to ensure that your employees are actually giving their best? What can be done to motivate them to bring out the best? What can be done? Third comes up, there are certain employees who are underperforming. They have the skills, but they are not performing well. They're performing below their capacity. What has to be done? What measures would you undertake to handle these employees? One side we have underperforming, the other side where you have employees who are really performing well beyond they're exceeding the expected standards. How would you handle them? What will you do so that they are motivated? Staffing properly, having the right kind of human resources at the right place, responding to a crisis. If there is a problem happening, how would you respond to that situation? How would you handle? It talks about your handling capacity. How would you address that challenge? Continuous improvement. You need to improve, right? Organization has to go for continuous improvement. Otherwise, what happens? You lose in the competition. Training resources, whatever resources you have, right? Training resources, it's needed, right? Why? Because when we are talking about training resources, we are talking of management, we are talking of staff, we're talking of new managers. Why do we need it? To enhance their skills so that they come up with they enhance the latest skills, and they come up and become better and matured employees. Okay, so the next topic that we have is in front of us is the external environment and the corporate culture. The external environment, when we talk of external environment, it is divided into two. One is the general environment, the other is the task environment. Now, when we talk of general environment, we are actually talking about the we are talking about the external business environment that is out there. Okay, and so it includes technology. Now, the technological advancement changes that is coming up that affects the organization. We are talking of the socio-cultural environment where we are talking about the norms, the customs, the values. We're talking of the economic environment. Economic environment is where we're talking of the economic situation of the country where the organization operates. The legal and the political environment is where we talk of the government at the local, state, and the national level, the rules and regulations, as well as the political activities. Okay, and also we have the international environment, that is where we are talking about the foreign countries. And next type of external environment is the task environment. Now, when we talk of task environment, what is it? What are we talking about? It is talking about sectors that conduct day-to-day transactions with the organization and have an influence on their performance and operations. Now, what are they? Our customers, our competitors, suppliers, the labor market. Next comes up is the internal environment, or the environment within the organization, or as we say, the corporate culture. Okay, so what are we talking about? Like these, we are talking about the fundamental values that characterize an organization's culture, right? So when we're talking about the organization's culture, so how can that be, like, make it public? How do people get to know? Talking to symbols, stories, slogans that comes up, and through ceremonies, right? Right. Our next topic that comes up is, when did the management theory? So we are coming to the theories of management. So it came up in the late 19th century after Industrial Revolution, where there was a transition from small cottage industries to large manufacturing factories. Okay. So the different theories that we have today is classical management theory, neoclassical management school, and the modern management theories. Right. So when we talk, let's start with the classical management schools. So what do we have? What are we talking about? This talks about how to make organizations efficient in operating machines, right? So what does the theory say? It is talking about it has a belief that workers only have physical and economic needs, but they do not take into consideration the social needs or job satisfaction. So it's only we're talking of money. That's it. Okay. Now, classical management theory, when we talk of it is based on three concepts. The first one is where we talk of the hierarchical structure. The hierarchical structure that comes up, where we are saying that workplaces are divided under three distinct layers of management. So top level, middle level, and the low level. Specialization, right? Specialization, and what happens? What the work of a big task, big work is broken down into small work, and accordingly, workers are assigned to do that to one particular type of those smaller work subdivisions based on their skills, which leads to increase in productivity and efficiency. The third factor is where we talk of incentives, that where we said employees are motivated by financial rewards. Yes, if you have provide them, if someone is really doing well and you give them benefits in the form of bonus, they'll be happy. So this is how the picture on the evolution of management thought. Okay. Next comes up is our scientific management theory, which was put forward by Frederick Taylor, and it is basically known for defining the techniques of scientific management. What does it talk about? It is the systematic study of relationships between employees and machines. Why? What is the main purpose? The purpose is to redesign the work process for increasing the efficiency. It focuses on one best way to do a job. Okay. Now, Taylor had developed four principles which would help to increase efficiency in the workplace. The first principle says that study the way the workers perform their task and experiment with ways of improving the ways tasks are performed. First, gather information how the workers are doing, and then actually go for trial and error how to improve the work, existing way, the way the work is being done. Second principle where it talks of where you codify the new methods of tasks into written rules. You need to document it and standard operating procedures. Not just coming up with new ways is not enough, but it needs to be documented. The third principle says that select workers carefully who has the right kind of skills and abilities that would match the needs of the task. Train them according to the established rules and procedures. And the fourth principle talks of to come up with a fair and acceptable level of performance for the task and accordingly develop a pay system. That is that is where we are talking about rewards for the performance when they are doing a really good job. So this is for you to think about what can be the problems, flaws in the scientific management model. Okay, next that we come across is the administrative management theory. So, which under administrative management theory, there are two types of theory. One is put forward by Max Weber, the other by Henry Fayol. Administrative management theory is talking about how to create an organizational structure which would lead to improvement, come up with a better efficiency and effectiveness. Okay. So let's talk of theory of bureaucracy, which was put forward by Max Weber. So where he developed, he's talking about a formal system of organization and administration, which is designed to ensure efficiency and effectivity. Okay, and it is based on some principles. Principles are there where there are five kinds of principles. Five principles. The first principle says that a manager's formal authority comes from the position he or she holds. Higher up in the management, you have more authority. So it's determined by your position. The second principle says people should occupy positions because of their performance and not because of their personal contacts. It's through your eligibility. Okay. Third principle says that each position's formal authority, responsibilities, and its relationship with other positions in the organization should be clearly defined. What is your authority? What are your responsibilities? That should be clearly specified in order to avoid confusion. The fourth principle, when we talk of fourth principle, so what happens? For authority to be exercised, when you have to exercise your authority in an effective way, so the position should be arranged hierarchically. That means lower level, on top of that is middle level, then comes up the top level. Otherwise, it becomes problem because then employees get to know whom do they report to and who reports to them. And there has to be a clear-cut line, which talks about the level of hierarchy. And the fifth principle that we have, the fifth principle says that managers must create a well-defined systems and operating procedures which would help them to effectively control behavior in an organization, within the organization. Now, before I actually start with the Fayol's principle of management, there is another type of theory that we have, which is called the Mayo's human relations motivation theory. So, which actually proposes that employees were motivated primarily by pay. It also talks of the same thing as a theory of bureaucracy. So workers are generally thought of as lazy and treated just as another piece of equipment. Now, the features of Elton Meyer's human relations approach. The main features says the first there are four main features. The first one says that since management is getting things done through and with people, a manager must have a basic understanding of human behavior in all respects, particularly in the context of work groups and organizations. The second point, the managers must study the interpersonal relations amongst the people at work. Third point, larger production and higher motivation can be achieved only through good human relation. And the fourth point says the study of management must draw the concepts and principles of various behavioral sciences like psychology and sociology. Okay, next we come up to Fayol's principles of management. All right, now Henry Fayol is the known as the father of modern management. So what does his theory says? It provides a clear and clear guidelines and a proper set of guidelines which the managers can use. Why? To create a good proper work setting which would help in coming up with developing the efficiency and effectivity of the organization, and also how to be more efficient and effective with regards to the utilization of human resources. Now, Fayol's principles of management are based on 14 principles. So let's actually go one by one. All right, so these are the 14 principles. So let's actually talk about it. Right, the first is division of work. Division of work, where it is said that the work should be divided amongst individuals, departments, as per the nature of the job. Different departments should have different types of jobs. Second principle is authority and responsibility. So there has to be a proper balance between authority and responsibility. Right now, what happens? The authority, the extent of authority given to the to the personnel or the human resources, the employees, should depend on the amount of responsibility. There has to be a link. Okay, right. The next comes up is discipline. Now, how can discipline be maintained when when your bosses are if your bosses are disciplined? Obviously, you that would be the role model. So for you, so bosses have to be disciplined. There has to be clear and fair agreements. Next principle is where we talk of unity of command, that is receiving orders from one superior. That's much better than having multiple bosses. Fifth principle is unity of direction, that is there should be one head, one plan for a group of activities which has the same objective. One head, one plan, not multiple. Okay. Sixth principle talks about subordination of individual interest to general interest. What does that mean? That the overall interest of the organization comes first and not our individual interest. We have all our interests are there, our own aspirations are there, but that should not come in conflict with the interest of the organization. Remuneration, the next point. Remuneration, wages and salaries should be fair, right? It should, depending on the cost of living, ability of the company to pay, prevailing wage rates in the industry. And there should be, along with financial benefits, there should be some non-financial benefits like good working conditions, recreation facilities, canteen facilities, and so on and so forth. Okay. The eighth one that we have is where we talk of centralization. Certain decisions should be centralized, certain decisions should be decentralized. So there has to be a proper balance between centralization and decentralization. Crucial decisions, crucial on has to be done centralized. Whereas where we have the regular work being done, that should be decentralized. The ninth one is scalar chain, where we talk of line of command from the top level to the lower level, right? The scalar, it can be short-circuited or broken if the situation demands in the interest of the organization. 10th principle is order. So when we talk of the 10th principle, the order, what does it say? This is basically talking about the order, the orderly order in the organization, the orderly organization, placing of the men, your technology and resources at the right place. So which actually also, if you have the right resources at the right place, there will be less misuse and less disorder. Okay. Right. So equity. The next thing, that next point that we have is point number 11 is where we talk of equity, right? So where which says that every single member in the organization should be treated equally depending upon the performance and circumstances. It should not happen that just because I am close to the management, I get better treatment. That should not happen. I should be treated based on my performance, whether I have someone known, whether I don't have someone known. The 12th point talks of stability of tenure. So this is applicable for managers as well as non-managers. So they need everyone needs time to learn and understand their jobs, right? So and employees should not be kept temporary for a long period of time. Like if you feel that someone in your organization is incompetent, they should be removed, they should be replaced, and those who are really performing well must be rewarded. But you cannot just keep somewhere in the middle. 13th one is initiative. So it says that your bosses must sacrifice their own vanity, right? Own pride to encourage and inspire the employees who are working under them. That has to be there. Your employees should be given the freedom to come up with new ideas, new suggestions. You cannot just thump your ideas and say this is the best. Give them an opportunity to come up with something new. Give them an opportunity to be creative. And the last point that we have is esprit de corps, which is where we are talking of team spirit. The bosses, your superiors must encourage team spirit amongst the employees, right? So why? Because team spirit leads to loyalty, dedication, and commitment amongst the employees. Okay, so that's all that we have today. See you in the next class.